This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome back to the North Georgia Life Podcast. This is Jake, your host. Today we're at Because Coffee in Dawsonville, Georgia. And I know some of you think that I do too many coffee shops on the podcast. First of all, I do not. I limited, this is me tempering myself and my coffee enthusiasm. I try to only do maybe 2 a year on the podcast because I know it's not for everybody. But if you're coming up to the North Georgia area and you're driving any length of time, it is a great pit stop to stop in at one of these coffee shops that we feature. And you already feel like you know the people, you know the owners, like you're walking in like you're Norm from Cheers. And 2, coffee's really amazing. And if you use Maxwell House or Folgers or I can't even bring myself to say great value coffee at your house. Just 1, know there's still hope for you. 2, good coffee and anything like that is, I don't even know, please film yourself. You will see tears of joy come out the ducts of your eyeballs when you actually have good coffee for the first time. I'm just trying to help you, but I digress. The second reason, really the maybe equal to that, is if you've ever wanted to start a business with friends. This is a great episode to listen to because these are people who are doing just that, and they're not just surviving in their business. They're actually growing, expanding, and thriving because everybody kind of has their own seat in what they do and the skill sets they bring. And they're in multiple states now. They've got like a mission part of their business in terms of how they're helping others both locally and around the world. They're doing so many different things and bring even more to their operation in Dawsonville in the months to come. So this is something you need to have on your map. You need to stop in and see Doug and his crew of amazing people. And I could not, Doug like quasi swooped in. I couldn't edit this out at the end of the episode. So this is going to be like the release of something amazing. If you're a coffee, tea, anything like that person, if you like doing like your own oil extractions or things like that, I'm about to change your ever-loving life. It has been right at, I think, 5 years that we've been doing the podcast. I have never once ever endorsed a product, advertised a product, or done anything specifically and on purpose. And I've had a handful of people that have inquired about it. And I listen to a lot of podcasts. I despise, loathe, like like the Grinch. I absolutely detest advertisements in podcasts when you have like 8 advertisements in 5 minutes and you're just like, oh my gosh, just let me finish the podcast. So I've specifically not done that on purpose for that reason. I'm not changing that, but what I am going to tell you is I have a product that we are going to be featuring on the podcast rolling forward. This is going to be the first episode that you're going to hear about it. And if you're a coffee or tea person or anything in that nature, it is going to change your ever-loving life. I cannot undersell this. I can't undersell it. No, I'm selling it appropriately right now. I'm telling you, I don't even know how to put it into words. It is one of those things I'm like, why did I not invent this thing? I'm going to save it to the end of the episode when Doug asks me about it. I'll roll it out at the end of the episode so you'll hear it. You'll know how to get a discount. You'll know where to go to find it. But I've been testing it out for now about a month. I'm a new man. I cannot go back. I cannot. I'm like a bad country song. Anyway, you know how to find us on Facebook, Instagram, North Georgia Life Podcast at gmail.com if you have suggestions for future episodes. That's it for me. I know it was a little bit lengthy of an intro, but I promise you, if you're a coffee or tea person, you're going to want to stay to the very end, and life is about to change. Welcome back to the North Georgia Life Podcast. Jake, your host. Today we're at a coffee spot. You know, I'm partial to good coffee spots that are local in the North Georgia area, but a lot of uniqueness around this one. And as we're sitting here with a cup of coffee, very good coffee. So, you know, I'm a sucker for good coffee. So we are at Because Coffee in Dawsonville, Georgia, and we are with one of the owners, Doug Cole, this morning. So, Doug, thanks for your time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Glad to be on the show.
You've got I've heard your shop from two different people, unrelated conversations.
Cool.
Everybody told me I needed to come meet you.
Oh, thank you.
Apparently, your cell phone is out there because both of them, like, I can text you his cell phone. I'm like, I just have a care for business owners, like not having their cell phones out everywhere. So I didn't want to do that. But you have a unique operation here. It's both common and unique. Coffee is obviously a common thing, but you guys do it a little bit different. And you've got, I think, a great mission behind what you do. So want to kind of talk about all of that. But let's start with you and how you wound your way to Dawsonville.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I got down to Dawsonville through route of some friends. They asked me to come roast coffee. You know, they said, Doug, we want to start a coffee business of some sort down here. Are you interested? So,
and these are friends from just other phases of life that were here in Georgia?
Yep. So I knew two of them from Indiana and one of them from Ohio, and which is where I was living at that point. He had beaten me down here by, I think, 2 years.
Okay.
To work with Eddie. So he came down here and I was like, crazy. Georgia's the last place I'll move. Not really the last place, but I just didn't want to. I was very happy where I was, and I didn't have any roots down here. I grew up, you know, this is state number 8. So at that point, that was state number 7 for me. I grew up moving a lot. So I was kind of happy to put down some roots.
What had gotten you into the coffee roasting or the coffee business in Ohio? Just, you like coffee? You're like, let me just give this a whirl?
Oh, yeah. So I got into coffee as a hobby. I think my first journal entry that I remember seeing about it was 2011. So I got into it pretty solid, though, around 2010, 2011 as a hobby. Found out what specialty grade coffee was. You know, specialty coffee, wow, this doesn't taste like what I'm used to. It's totally different. So starting off getting into it, at that point, you know, I was in Indiana working 3 or 4 jobs, you know, and one of them was a side hustle that I had cleaning. Moved to Ohio and at some point said, I'm ready for another little side gig. I didn't want to start up another cleaning business. It was a different phase of life, you know, with my kids and everything like that. So I'll give coffee roasting a whirl. I can't open a cafe because I don't have the capacity for that. But I can learn how to roast and roast at home or get a little place to roast at and take it off to markets and wholesale accounts and online. So that's how I started. But it started in a popcorn popper.
A popcorn popper?
Yep. And I've got it up on the shelf in the shop.
Get out of here.
Yeah. You can only, it takes you over an hour to do a pound of coffee because you can only roast about, you know, 3.5 ounces at a time. So I did that for a little while, realized that I can make some way better coffee than what you get at the store. So I was like, well, if I can do that in a popcorn popper, I'm going to buy a roaster. So I got a 3-pound air roaster, which is you know, obviously a lot smaller than what we have now and a completely different style of roasting. But that's how I learned.
In 1,000 years, I never would have thought to try popcorn popper.
Oh man, they're a hardcore community too. You can buy small roasters, but it's a level of effort that people put into modding up their own little popcorn poppers, and they love the West Bend Poppery 2s, which is what I have. I mean, it's from the 80s.
Wow,
so, good little guy. But I mean, people will actually drill out, insert thermocouples, you know, and you can test the air. You know, they will put rheostats in there to not just test. You get the temperatures. Not just read and track the temperatures and plug it into software. They will also put rheostats to adjust the air up or down. Anyways, they go through a lot of trouble just to do it. I don't know why, because you can go buy one.
Yeah. Different strokes for different folks. I'll never understand it, but, you know, where people have passions, like, you know, it's good watching on YouTube, you know. That's what else can I say? So you had friends down here. Why did they want to open a coffee shop?
Well, Eddie is always, so Eddie Wilson is one of my partners. That was his brainchild. You know, I guess he made the phone call. It's like, Doug, do you want to do this? He pitched it to me. He already had he's had multiple businesses and still does. He's just a kind of serial entrepreneur guy. He's always had a real piqued interest in coffee, loves coffee, has been to Origin, several different places. And he's got a nonprofit that he started 8 years ago. And the idea was, well, let's start this business as a way to be able to help the nonprofit in one way, shape, or form. It could be financially, it could be with the connections. You don't really know when you're going into it. And when you get into coffee or anything in the food related industry, the margins are not super high. So where it's helped in a number of ways, not in all the ways that we necessarily anticipated, especially as we're still trying to grow and get there.
Hmm.
So we started it because of that.
One of the business side of the questions, and we'll get into just you have a number of different kinds of coffee, and I mean when I started kind of looking at your website and then your shop here for a small location, the variety is pretty incredible. But from a like life and business perspective, it is very. I was in a partnership years ago, and when I started, my financial advisor gave me one of the best pieces of advice surrounding the partnership structure in business, which is make sure you have a good exit strategy before you start.
Mm-hmm.
And because no partnership is going to last forever, even if it's great for 50 years, someone's eventually going to die or want to retire or whatever.
Right.
And the other thing he said was, he said 3 years is your test case.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if you're in, any kind of business, like anybody can have a great year, anybody can have a bad year, but it was that, 3-year average of if everything looks the same for 3 years and, everybody's rocking along, you've got a great partnership. If, you're high one year, you're down the next year, and you and your partner or partners, kind of soften the blow for each other on those off years, that's great. But if you're consistently, somebody's up here, somebody is down here, multiple people are, not showing up, doing these things, within 2 to 3 years, it's not a good partnership for you to stay in. How do you, how did you guys structure that framework where you have, you have past relationship, presumably friendships involved, and you also have business and your livelihoods that the business needs to perform for everybody, maybe in different capacities depending on how the partnership structure is, or the business is geared. How do you guys make that work? How did you make that work starting out?
Well, we all did have roles. There was, I'm sure, a little bit of, in some ways, probably a little bit of naivety because we all trusted each other.
Mm-hmm.
We did learn a lesson or two about some of that stuff, but I will say that we all work together well. That I don't know of any of the guys who bring an ego to the table, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't necessarily script that. You can't put that into your articles of incorporation or your operating agreement, or you can't file that. That's not part of the filing process. So, but that's been a big thing, honestly. Eddie, even though he is, the whole concept started with Eddie. He started more businesses than any of us. That's who he is. He's an easy guy to work with. He wants you to be able to run something. He's got a lot going on. He knows that. He's like, here, let's run this. You have enough rope to make something happen or to hang yourself. And so it's been good working with him on that end. One of my other partners, he handles the finances, Dave, and Dave hones in on his stuff, and Paul helps us with the build outs and now helping consult, helping to drive a lot of operations.
Mm-hmm.
Tim helps us with some of the web and things, and he moved out of the area. Now he's moving back. I'm looking forward to having more boots on the ground with him. He's a good friend. And then me, I've played it, all over the place with it because I'm the guy in the middle of the coffin. So, but I'm now finally, you kind of figure out what you're good at, what you're bad at, and what you think you're good and bad at doesn't always. you sometimes you need some reality. You need life to show that to you.
Yeah.
So we got good guys. We're honest with each other, and we had good discussions about that. And so I'm realizing where my strengths are, and it's funny because even Eddie thought some of my strengths were in different areas before we got into all this. And then all of a sudden he got into it. He's like, wow, I didn't see that coming. You're actually better at this than what I thought you were better over here. We have to change some things on. So Yeah, but you do have to set some expectations and some rules.
Yeah.
And I've been learning that big time, super big time over the past probably 3 to 4 months, and wrestled with a lot of decisions. So expectations are huge.
Let's go into your shop here, and we're sitting in your soon to be expanded location.
Yeah.
Talk us through what you have, not just what you have, but how you decided on what coffee you were going to have, and just some of the elements of the things you offer here, but then also what the because is behind the because coffee.
Yeah, cool. So, and going all the way back, it was fun trying to pick all those things out. We had, choosing what slots we wanted for coffee. So I knew that I wanted something. I wanted to, we were going to have our single origin offerings. You're drinking a natural process from Uganda right now. Those are going to rotate, but we wanted our staple house blend coffees, our signature blends, house blends. We call them house coffees. And we wanted something that was going to be a light, a medium, a dark. We had added a medium dark in there, and then you need a decaf or two. And like a dummy, I didn't plan for an espresso at the beginning because I didn't care about doing espresso. We didn't even have an espresso bar in here. Shouldn't have done that. I would advise anybody who goes into coffee of any way, shape, or form, if you have a physical location, put an espresso bar in there. Don't be dumb. Everybody wants it. So, but I didn't even have an espresso blend. Here I am roasting coffee, and the goal is to grow the business through wholesale, and I didn't have an espresso blend. I didn't even have a way of testing one out. So you just don't think about those things sometimes. So we got that going, got our espresso bar going, and that was, one of the best moves we did, that everybody gets into it from different angles. So I just wanted to roast and wanted to have coffee to sell. So we picked out our slots of coffees. I came up with the names and the concepts for them. And then you come up with, you say, okay, well, if I want a light roast, what is our signature house? What's that going to taste like? All right, I want it to have a brighter, sweeter berry finish on there, and that's kind of what we're known for on that. Well, how am I going to make it? So let me find some good coffees that I want to work with, roast them and test them. Then I start blending things together and see. I have a profile in mind. It's my job to go find coffees, roast them appropriately to where they shine, and then blend them to where it's got the right balance to hit what I want. So, but that starts by, you know what you want, then you find the coffees. And so then we can all year long, we can keep those coffees in stock, the blends going, even if we have different origins come and go. They're seasonal.
Gotcha.
So, and then we just rotate the seasonal ones around.
Okay. And the because part of your mission, your business.
Yeah. So we've got, I don't know if we haven't talked about it yet. Do you know we've got another side of another company, another brand, so to speak, cafes?
No, I don't think I did.
So that one came within the last year, and it came out of Because Coffee, but it's called Myth and Legend. So Because Coffee, Myth and Legend, same heart, just two different ways of doing it. So the because behind Because Coffee, we struggled with the idea. So what are we going to name this? Because we didn't want to lead with our cause. We didn't want it. Not that we want to hide it, but why do you go to a coffee shop?
To get good coffee, and usually to sit down and talk to someone.
Yeah. So you don't go there because of my cause. You want coffee. You're not paying me for my cause. You're paying me for coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure that the coffee, that we put the emphasis on the service and the product that we're offering to our customers, first and foremost. And then if they want to find out about it, if they're interested, they can ask us. So the name Because Coffee actually really leans into that. They'll come in, they'll taste our coffee. It's great. They enjoy it. The service, our team is incredible.
Yeah.
Take care of really good care of people. The customers are happy. Our community is awesome. So they're very welcoming, engaging. You're going to get business connections when you're in here. You're going to get homeschool connections. You're going to get wedding venue connections, whatever, all from the customers. You pick up on that. They're like, I get the feeling like with your name, Because Coffee, and like, I don't know, is there something behind what you guys do? Like, yeah, I'm glad you asked. So then I get to tell them, well, because about 8 years ago, Eddie started a nonprofit called CMI, Christian Media International. And it's a television broadcasting that is focused on, very simply focused, covering the gospel, covering the world in the gospel, the 100 major spoken languages.
Hmm.
So we're believers, but again, we don't put this isn't a quote unquote Christian coffee shop.
Right.
Like there's nothing,
There's nothing on my coffee mug.
no, and there's not like I could be like, you're baptized in coffee. Like there's nothing holy or sanctimonious about coffee. You know what I mean? It's a brown liquid that
Right.
you sip on, and people do it for different reasons. Some people want it for the caffeine. I don't drink coffee for caffeine. I drink coffee because I like the taste of it and I like the social interaction.
Mhm.
So we wanted to that was the goal. That's our because is CMI. Now, since then, in the last couple of years, actually, CMI has kind of slid underneath of a broader initiative called Impact Others. So CMI has, I think we're at 5. We've got 2 more in the process. Might have those done by now. You broadcast television broadcasting across the world that's focused on the gospel, the hope of the gospel in the 100 major languages. We have, I think, we're up in the high to mid 40s for of those 100 major languages. We got about 40 something odd of those languages recorded with at least a year's worth of broadcasting content. We used to bring those speakers here to Dawsonville and record them. Now we've begun to build studios across the world. So we have 5 studios across the world, goal of 15. I think we have 2 more in place. 1 or 2 of those might be open by now. So we might be at 7, I think. Studios that are built where we'll have people come in, record, and produce and the content. Because it's easier to get to Ghana if you're in Africa, any part over there,
Yeah.
than it is to bring them here to Dawsonville.
Dawsonville.
So, we got Alexandria, Egypt, Ghana, we're in Kumasi, Ghana, Africa. We have a studio in Ukraine. We have a studio in Brazil and Colombia, India. So
Wow.
that's what we're working on. And so, but in doing that was Eddie started realizing, man, there are a lot of real boots on the ground, humanitarian, physical day-to-day needs that we're running into. And we have access to them. We can see them. We see the needs. They don't fit underneath our CMI. So he started Impact Others. And Impact Others has a much broader appeal. Not everybody says, yeah, I want to make sure that I'm supporting getting the gospel to the world. But anybody can get behind feeding kids, or building an orphanage, or providing clean water, or helping to build and provide a sustainable business in a community. So that's what we're doing. So those are the 4 pillars of Impact Others: food, water, orphanages, and sustainable businesses. Whether it be a water buffalo farm, a chicken farm, dress production facility like clothing, where like in Mexico City they are producing clothing for women. Women are producing clothing for women, and it's a business that we help them start. It generates revenue, pays for it. They're expanding. So that has a much broader appeal, and it also lives out. If we say we want to share the hope of the gospel and an eternal hope, well, then this is living it out. You got to be able to help people.
It's one of those things in our we see a need in our communities, and if you don't, you just probably need to take some new roads around the neighborhood, because there's in every city that I've been in, every town here in Georgia, it's like 2 streets over, 1 street on the side, and you see a need, you see a level of poverty or just brokenness or whatever you want to call it. And this was probably 12-ish, almost 12 years ago or so. I went to Uganda for the first time and saw saw a level of just nothingness. You see people who live in literally homes of dirt and sticks and straw making up their roof. But then talking to them and to some of the pastors that were over in that area, and I remember coming back and having this conversation with a friend of mine that I was working with at the time, and it was just like this, like, help me understand why people are so poor, why there's so much poverty. And it's like, well, one, like, and this was me having just kind of figured, I don't want to say figured it out, but like, and being enlightened for the first time of most of these people don't expect to live very long.
Right.
So any money that I do have, limited money, like why am I going to save it? I'm probably not going to be here, that much longer. And then when you think about starting, like you said, starting a business, okay, well, there's, we got a bunch of people here that could use, really benefit from a bicycle or, a cart or whatever, or clothing. Okay, well, I need to buy a few pieces of equipment to work on bicycles. I need to buy a sewing machine to make clothing and some yarn and stuff like that. It's like, well, where's that money come from?
Right.
It's that, but you like, I don't want to say dumb it down, but you get down to the ground level of that and say, if there's no resource for that, and if you're if you're physically having to walk 3 hours a day just to get water to keep your family alive,
Right.
a lot of us, we spend 3 hours a day in traffic on on 400 or
Right.
85 or whatever, and if all that time was not actually going to make money,
Money.
but
We have to
just
survive.
going to get water to survive,
Right.
like, I mean, you stack generation after generation after generation on top of that. The reference point of entrepreneurship or building something that has a legacy or that's sustainable, it's not even in your galaxy of comprehension.
Right.
When I shared that with him, I could see on his face, it was just like, I understand, but I don't understand. And it's like, yeah, we really don't understand.
Right.
And so,
No, we're so far removed from that.
yeah, so far removed from it. And it's like, even if you're in the United States and you have like poverty, like if you have a determination, you've got a little bit of work ethic, you'll find somebody that'll give you the loan.
Right.
Like you'll find somebody who'll give you some money to make your ambition happen.
Right.
Those things
And they're a job.
don't exist for most of them.
No.
So yeah,
For a good bit of my early married life.
yeah.
I mean, there are things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy, but the accessibility is there.
Yeah. From a overall business perspective, maybe you can kind of combine business and just life of you guys as a very unique structure. I thought it was important when you were going through, and this was my guess when I learned that you guys have a pretty diverse business partnership. Usually, you got a partner in your business. You guys have a couple more people, so you've got more dynamics at play, and the having everybody with an assigned role. Like, I don't need you to be, an A plus in everything. I just need you to be an A plus in your seat, and in the lever that you're
Right.
running with this company. I also usually ask people what's the best, like your gold nugget that you would give people. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, worst piece of advice? So that's an interesting question. A lot of people don't hold to this. A lot of people disagree with me, but follow your passions. And why? One, your passions change. Two, if you're passionate about something, you put enough work into it, guess what it turns into? Work. Then what you were passionate about now becomes work.
Right.
I mean, and I ain't gonna lie, that's what I don't get to stand behind the bar, make coffee for everybody. This ain't Gilmore Girls. I'm not standing there making coffee for everybody. No, I wish I could stand behind the bar and talk to all the customers. And that's what I love to do. I got to do that. I don't get to do that anymore. And maybe I'll get to the point where I can. So, strengths. I say you apply your strengths. You follow your strengths, and you can apply them to a passion and make that your life's work. I love doing what I get to do, but it doesn't feel the same now that it did 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate in different ways about different things now. And I'm definitely still, and I will always be passionate about people. I'm a people geek first and a coffee geek second. So I have a strength or a gift and a calling, I feel like, to invest and take care of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm passionate about that, but it's a gift of mine. And I'm going to do it. I don't care if I'm making coffee for people, or if I'm changing flat tires.
Mm-hmm.
If I have a Porta John delivery service, I'm going to take care of people. And I honestly could enjoy having a Porta John delivery service. Because messes are a sign of life, So that would be one. You don't have to do that. I think too many people get too focused on, I just have to be passionate about something to do it. And then they're like, well, I'm not passionate about anything, so I don't know what to do right now. Just go do something. You'll figure it out. And just do something that you're good at. And it takes care of you. It pays the bills and you're good at it. I'm good at work. I'm going to enjoy work. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. So I would say that would be one that, and I didn't say yes to coming down here to do coffee because I had to be in coffee. It was a good opportunity. I know that I told Eddie up front, this could fail for a multitude of reasons. It's not going to be because I can't work hard though. I may not be the smartest guy and I'm going to make some mistakes, but I do know how to work. So I do love to work.
It's a great and very timely answer because I've had a conversation or two in the last month, 2 months with some people that are in younger phases of life. And there is, especially right now in this, our upcoming generation, you have a lot of, I'll call it idealism. But the idealism doesn't have, unfortunately, doesn't really have any experience behind it.
Right.
And experience is like the leveler of all people. There's no pie like humble pie, and everything looks easy. I don't know if I shared this on any other podcast, but a couple of years ago I was doing one of those ropes classes where you're up the telephone pole and you're walking. You're strapped into the carabiners, but you're walking across that little like rope bridge thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting down there initially. We weren't the first group that went across, and you're sitting down there. You got your harness on, your helmet, and you're just kind of sitting there in the peanut gallery while these other people are going on. And it's like, it doesn't look, it's like, it's not that high up. It doesn't look that high up. You're strapped in, like you can't go anywhere. If you fall, you're going to fall 6 inches, like until the cable catches you. And you see people who are paralyzed, cannot move, and you're sitting there on the ground saying like you dumb, like just walk.
Yeah.
You got the rope, you got the things on your side, you can walk across, like you do know how to walk, right? You got up there by walking. And then it's my turn.
Yep.
And you get up there and your legs start shaking underneath you, and you're like, oh, I get it now. It's a whole lot easier looking at the people at the top from the bottom when you hadn't climbed the stairs. You're not standing there on the edge, not trying to talk yourself into taking that first step. And oh, by the way, it looks way higher. And I do not do heights. And in the same light of the idealism and the aspirations, like a lot of it is rooted in good.
Oh, totally.
But
totally agree with you there.
But it is until you've started a small business or until you've taken that, first step. Heck, you can compare it to like making, a pizza. Like a pizza looks so easy to make until you tried to make one yourself, and you're like, why isn't this easier? Why doesn't mine look kind of like the pictures on Instagram? And you realize, oh, things are a whole lot harder than they actually are, and things don't go the way you want them to. And if you build it, sometimes they don't come.
Oh, man.
And all of those things you're commenting about, like just identify your strengths and then work, as much as possible, work in those strengths. And that's.
But how do you identify those strengths though?
Yeah. So it's funny that this is coming up because for the last probably 5 years, so I do a fair bit of volunteer stuff with University of North Georgia. The business students that I meet with, like one of my like I beg them, like I do a free. It takes about an hour. I call it the self skills assessment. So it is you looking at you, and at that point, you're in college. Most people have had a couple jobs through their life. I came across this process when I was in 30, 32. Like,
Hmm.
had been through a couple professional jobs, obviously had jobs in high school and college, and looking at my how I'm naturally wired,
Hmm.
and then the jobs and the job functions. And actually, I shared this with somebody somewhere in the last week. Like, I looked at the job that I hated the most, had an idea of why I hated it. Part of it was some situations with the our manager at the time, but didn't really know why it was so exhausting to me. Didn't know why until I did went through that exercise, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
like the things like you said, the peopling, the things I'm good at, the things that give me energy, put some wind in my sails. I did that maybe one day a week.
Right.
The other 4 days was completely out of my strengths
Yep.
zone, and I'm in my early 30s at this point. Complete eureka moment to me. And so that's where I'm like, okay, if I could transport myself back in time to when I was 18 to 22 and say, hey, don't worry about the career, don't worry about the name, the title. Figure out the things that you're naturally good at, you're naturally gifted in, the things that give you some energy, some passion, and everything is going to feel like work because everything requires work.
Work. Yeah. But if you love work, you're gonna love life.
Yeah, and if you're good at those things, that's going to get you
Yeah.
further faster. And in helping students understand, like, if your passion is taking care of people,
Hmm.
like, you probably don't need to be behind a cubicle doing
Spreadsheets.
software or
Now
whatever.
you can do that. You can use that motivation to get you through that of I love people and I want to take care of them. So I'm going to do right the work that I do on this
Mhm.
spreadsheet. That can be your motivation for it. And that's when I was in more of an operational role. Um, that was my motivation for making sure that things are organized. Is
Yeah,
because I wanted to make sure that all the volunteers were taken care of.
yeah,
They could do what they wanted to do when they showed up.
yeah. And I think the where I kind of went off on a tangent with this is the conversations that I've had was basically like people wanting to find that end goal purpose or
Mhm.
that whatever, like, why am I here,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to be doing, instead of looking at it of like, what if I just work hard and I'm faithful with where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like you said, of the connections that happen in coffee shops, most of us are one or two conversations away from whatever that thing is
Hmm.
coming to fruition, being that golden conversation that you have. And it just seems to me like it's a whole lot more likely that if you're being faithful with where you're planted, and you're being the best employee,
Hmm.
contractor, or whatever where you're at, that good things are going to
It,
pursue you,
people notice that. People notice those things.
especially now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, people notice when you put your heart into something. People notice when you keep your commitments. People notice when you get stuff done. People notice when you go the extra mile.
Hmm.
And again, you could be, they're changing tires at Discount Tire, and you don't know whose tire you're changing.
Hmm.
That person sees you.
Yeah.
Yeah, is anybody going to be passionate about changing tires? Probably not. You can be passionate about doing a good, about
Hmm.
working hard. You can be passionate about what you're doing with your paycheck.
Hmm.
So that's something that I learned. You're talking about finding your strengths and identifying those. And I think it's what you said earlier. The only true way you can do that is by experience. You
Hmm.
can't shortcut experience. I mean, the only thing that's close to shortcutting experience is education. You can learn from other people's experience, but it still requires somebody's experience. But you tapped on idealism, and I love idealism. I love the idealism of youth.
Hmm.
And I guess I just hit 40, so I'm like at that point now where it's like, okay, youth, they don't consider me youth anymore. Probably haven't for a while. I can still outrun a lot of them, but what I think is missing though in American Western modern society is we silo society way too much. Doesn't matter if you're in school, if you're in work, if you're in social events, churches, dude, churches. It's like, all right, old people over here, middle-aged people over here, career people and married with families, and then boys and girls and teens and preteens and older teens and younger teens, and everybody's segregated. Yeah, I think good intent.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the youth with the idealism are nowhere around the older people with the experience. The people with the experience are not around the people with the idealism. So they're all like, yeah, experience and yeah, blah, 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 blah. That's never going to work. And life's tough and then you die. And they're totally missing the hopeful youthfulness. And the youth has hope without any experience. They need to be in the same room. And that's what I love about the coffee shop. Man, I've learned a ton. I've gained a lot of perspective on faith.
Mm-hmm.
I gained a lot of perspective on people. And there are people that I have phenomenal conversations with where we are not even on the same planet when it comes to some of our viewpoints. Except I think that their motivation is true. I think they want to love people, but they have a different way of going about loving people.
Mm-hmm.
So I can at least see that part. I didn't see it like that 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was a lot more rigid. But now I can at least see, okay, that person, I don't agree with your views, but I think that you want to love people, but your basis for loving people is just different from what I see it. I can at least appreciate the fact that you want to love them, take care of people.
Yeah.
So, but that comes from, chasing your passions, idealism. I'm just going to take the shortcut and use social media. And now I'm an authority. No, you need some experience.
Yeah.
Get around some older people, whether that be asking questions, taking them out for breakfast, volunteering. Me and my family were going over square dancing at the Dahlonega Senior Center. We ran it, we can't keep up with it right now during school, but all summer long, Thursdays, we're going and square dancing with senior citizens. We didn't plan for it to be like that. Then we found out what it was once we showed up, and you know what? This is really valuable. And we got to hang out every Thursday night for 2 hours with folks who are twice my age, 4 times what my kids, their age are, 5 times.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was a long answer from your question.
In the unfinished space we're at, and just thinking in the next few years, what do you guys want to see happen? What's the focus? Talk through some of that.
Definitely. So you asked about Because Coffee. You were aware about Because Coffee. Our focus was on building a roastery and really expanding outside of our walls with wholesaler partners, selling to other cafes, businesses, restaurants, churches, whatever, and e-commerce, selling online. Then we decided to expand the cafe side of it. It showcased our roasting side really well. And that's actually given us a good bit of wholesale opportunity. So then we're like, well, maybe we should do that some more. So that's when we opened Myth and Legend in Cumming in the city center. And we opened one in Johns Creek, and we put one in St. Augustine in April. So this space is going to stay Because Coffee. I don't know that we're going to put any more Because Coffees out anywhere else. I kind of like having it just right here. It's Dawson County. We've started this ground up and developed good, strong relationships. I don't want to open another Because Coffee. I want to keep this just right here. So we're going to roast from here, continue to do that. This space that we're in, we got you're sitting in the middle suite, but we have our original suite on the end cap, then the one next to it, and the one past it. And we're going to expand our roasting operation over here. We're slam packed over there.
Yeah. It's not a whole lot of space.
No, man. The roaster. So we have a roaster that's double the capacity. We're purchasing more storage space, racks and bigger dunnage racks and more equipment to be able to produce more coffee. We're upping our game with some new quality control equipment, because the more you produce, the easier it is to slip if you're not careful. So we want to stay on top of our game there. But we're also going to have more space for our customers in the community. So we are adding a good amount of customer seating that we're gonna make available for some private use as well. So during the daytime, having a space over there, we'll have like a Zoom TV, table, divider, boom, business meeting, Chamber of Commerce, whatever, can reserve that, and then you still get this whole area and around the corner. You could probably put a stage over in the corner, so we can do a lot more fun live music evenings, and then also rent the space out as an event center in the evenings. So off hours, we want to be able to rent the place out, because there's not much in the way of like a small to medium event venue in Dawson County. So you got a lot of beautiful wedding venues here, but not everybody's looking for a wedding venue.
Yeah.
So that's how we plan to use this. We're going to doll up the sidewalk patio out in front of us, make that a lot more more attractive and usable, draw people off of 400.
I was saying you got a great location for it.
Yeah, especially with everything growing and booming. So we were hoping that when we picked this location that we were kind of in the path of growth because everything had kind of filled up from 53 South. When Kroger moved down there, everything kind of filled up. Thought, well, the only way to move is north now. And if we do it right here, this is kind of like right at the end of civilization because everything was all trees. You know what I mean?
Right.
From right here on up was trees all the way up to just trees. And now they got the hospital up there in Dahlonega and everything's going to be moving in between us and the hospital. So I think this is going to be a good place. I mean, 256 homes are going right over there, right across from us, and we're directly connected to them. So yeah, so the way this is expanding and going to help our business, we're going to be able to roast more coffee. We're going to be able to have also a coffee lab. So the coffee lab is going to be an area where we can train all of our employees. We can train our wholesale partners. We can bring their teams in here and train them in equipment that is going to be like the bar, the coffee bar, but it's not in use to serve customers. And it's also going to allow us to focus on the quality control. And the third part of that that's going to be really cool is we're going to be able to do educational events for our customers and for the community. So not just training our employees, but we're going to, we got a room over here, coffee lab right there, and be able to do Saturday cupping events for our customers. How to do espresso at home, how to do pour overs, how to make your own syrups. We make all of our own syrups here. Here's a little secret, everybody. You know what it takes to make syrups? Sugar, water, and whatever else you want to put in there.
Right.
But people want to learn how to do that type of stuff. So that's how we plan to use this space.
Awesome.
And we don't have all of it locked up and allocated. We have, actually about half of that unit we're using more for storage. So, at some point we can grow into
it. Just from a business standpoint, I'm like, yes, on not just what the niches you're filling, but the thought process and the need and the market behind that.
I hope so. Also, it's scary. Event wise, we are gonna, just tell everybody keep their eyes and ears open for the expansion here. That's gonna be exciting. We hit our fifth anniversary back in May. We typically had something called a birthversary shindig, so we'd have live music and people and a food truck or two or something like that out there. We didn't do anything like that. I'm tapped. We opened 3 cafes in less than a year, and one in Cumming, Johns Creek, and then St. Augustine.
Yeah.
So I was loaded, and now we're going through an expansion right here. So we put that off and thought, well, why don't we just go ahead and do a ribbon cutting? Because I never even did an official ribbon cutting with our chamber, which is my fault. We got a phenomenal chamber of commerce, the rock stars. So let's do our ribbon cutting for all of this, celebrate 5 years. So sometime this fall, and then we're going to renovate next door. So it's really going to get all around. That would be the main thing to keep your, event wise, keep your eyes and ears open. With the new roastery, is going to come some new coffees. So I'm going to start cranking out some new coffees, that type of stuff. So over the next couple months, it's going to be a lot.
So a question I like to do before the end of every episode is called lightning round. It's a question that has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
So what is a hobby that you have had or have that would be a surprise or like just a random hobby that no one would guess?
A random, no, but they're going to guess it. It's guitar, because I don't have a bunch of hobbies. I like basketball. I don't get to play basketball much now. I probably will. My son seems to take a liking to it. He's 11, so that's going to be my motivator to get back into it. But playing guitar, one that most people don't know about this one because I'm working on it, I guess. It's related to it. I love guitar. My first guitar that I ever got is over in the corner in the shop. It is a harmonica. I think playing the guitar and the harmonica is such a freaking awesome combo. Somebody just told me yesterday, you can play the two, but once you add that third instrument into it, you become a freak show. It's like, I say, okay, I'll just stop with those two. I'm already freak show enough. But harmonica, and I've got my wife and kids got me one of the neck braces a couple years ago for Christmas. So it's hands-free, and I do play my harmonica, and I've got my playlist, and I play it while I'm driving down the road because it's on my neck. I've got both hands on the wheel. It's a little life hack. So there you go. If you ever see me driving down the road and I'm jamming.
So if you see a guy
that's me
driving down the road with a harmonica and no one else in there, hands-free.
It's hands-free.
It's him.
I'm totally legal.
It's Doug.
I'm having fun, man.
Just roll down your window and say, hey, Doug.
No.
How do people find you? Physical location, social media, just whatever.
Yeah, so you can look us up right on Google, to get our physical location for Because Coffee or any of the 3 Myth and Legends. Because Coffee's in Dawsonville, Myth and Legend in the Cumming City Center. And then we've got Myth and Legend in Johns Creek. It's in actually the street level portion of a high rise and a high rise living community. So cool little shop. And then downtown St. Augustine in the historic district, we're about a block from A1A, just right down there. Festival of Lights coming up soon. So if you head down there, get some coffee, some hot chocolate, some chai.
Yeah.
So that's how you can find us physically on the internet, on the webs. Social media is Because Coffee Co. And then mythandlegend.coffee on Instagram or Facebook.
Cool.
The website's, because.coffee, mythandlegend.coffee. So pretty straightforward.
I know you're probably needed next door, so
Can I ask you one last question?
yes.
I was intrigued earlier. You asked me, or you mentioned that you have some coffee equipment or something that you're playing with. Is that something you're allowed to talk about, or can you talk about it off the record? You're going to release it.
Yes. Well, so I've not tried it enough yet. I've tried it once. My wife has tried it once, but it is a product that somebody basically took a Keurig cup and a French press and had a baby.
Oh, it's interesting.
And I'm kind of in love with it.
Does it work with the K cup?
No,
So it's something new.
it's something
Do you
different.
fill it yourself?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
And
It means you can fill it with fresh coffee.
And it's yes.
Okay.
And so it accomplishes the French press purity of coffee.
Yeah, that mouthy kind of heavier
Yes.
cup of
So one of the we have a French press. We never use it.
Right.
It just I'm like, I like my coffee hot. I like my coffee to be hot, and I like it fresh as much as possible. And so the French press has great offerings for that. But at the same time, I don't like to wait that long. And, it's doesn't always work right. And sometimes you end up eating coffee grounds. And so all of those things, I'm like, I mean, we have it. And I'm like, I don't even know which cabinet it's in right now.
Yeah.
We never use it, but I love it.
Yeah.
And so this is my motivator of hey, but if you could take away the things you don't like about the French press and keep the things you do, here's this. So I'll share it with you.
I'm interested
Yeah.
to see that. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I like coffee geek toys. My wife had to tell me to stop. So I've got a section in the kitchen, and it's a coffee bar. I've got 3 grinders over there, espresso machine, the coffee maker, all my manual brew equipment, and 2 drawers of coffee.
Yeah.
So that's just at the house.
There you go.
So I guess I still have a little bit of a passion for coffee. Cool.
Good to have.
Yeah, man.
Doug, thanks for your time, man.
Sure thing, Jake. Thanks.
This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.
Hey guys, Jake with North Georgia Life Podcast. For almost 5 years, I've specifically not done any advertising, any product promotion, anything like that on this podcast because I cannot stand when a podcast that I want to listen to is interrupted a dozen times by a bunch of annoying ads for stuff that have absolutely no pertinence, relevance, or anything. And I have specifically, deliberately not sought out or done any advertising that has come my way because I just don't want our, local regional podcast to become something that feels corporate or anything like that. I'm just not going to do it. I came across a product about 2 months ago. I've been testing now. We got a product sample. We've been testing this out for about a month. Life-changing is maybe underselling. It is the most amazing thing. If you have a Vitamix blender, just think Vitamix like life change, but like pennies on the dollar. So if you're a coffee person, you're a tea person, you like to do a different kind of tinctures or oil infusion things, this is what you've been looking for. You were hoping, praying, didn't even know that someone somewhere would invent the perfect combination of a Keurig or an espresso with the French press. Final Press has done it. They have done it. It is amazing. I cannot help you understand how, if you're a coffee or a tea person, pull the car over, just write this down. It is going to be probably the best thing that you will do for your coffee, tea experience in the next decade. Short of growing your own coffee beans in your backyard, this is the next best thing. Go to finalpressco.com/NGL. That's finalpressco.com/NGL for North Georgia Life. If you get there, just go through Google. It's fine. When you get to the discount code at the end, just put in NGL. You get 10% off your order. So something that is life-changing, you're also going to get it on sale. And like I said, we've been using this for maybe a month now, and you can't go back. You can't go back, and you don't want to go back because it's so easy. It is super easy to clean. It is incredibly portable. You can take this with you camping. You can take it to your office. If you've got that person in your life that is the most annoying, impossible person to buy gifts for, this is what you get them. You get them a Final Press, and they've never seen it. They've never heard about it. And if they're a coffee or a tea person, it is like you have now become a ranking member of the gift giving committee by one simple purchase, and that is the Final Press. Go on their website. You will, as amazing as it looks on their website, I promise you it's even better in your kitchen. finalpressco.com/NGL, or just use the discount code NGL. When you check out, you get 10% off, and you will thank me later.